What was your "dang, you live like this" moment? Before we start with the first story, please hit a subscribe and ring the notification bell to stay updated with us. Story 1. Stepping into my buddy's dorm, expecting a dumpster fire but finding just a bit of chaos hit me hard. Compared to the hurricane zone I called my own room, his place was practically spotless. It was like a wake-up slap, making me see the state of my own mess. I mean, I knew I wasn't the tidiest, but seeing it next to his kind of put things in perspective. Time to roll up my sleeves and declutter, because if his place was a hint, mine was a disaster zone in dire need of rescue. Story 2. Hit up my buddy's crib, right? Only got one bathroom downstairs. But get this. In their room, they got these piss bottles stashed for those lazy midnight bathroom runs. I'm talking 2-liter bottles full of pee just chilling in their room. I was like, bruh, what the heck? Couldn't wrap my head around it. I mean, we've all been lazy, but dang, that's a whole new level. Story 3. Yo, been in the paramedic game for a solid 25 years now. Let me tell ya, the stuff I've witnessed, it's etched into my brain like graffiti on a wall. And get this, it ain't always about medical emergencies either. Nah, sometimes it's the everyday craziness that sticks with ya, from bizarre accidents to wild antics. Story 4. Buddy goes and has a baby with this girl who's just as lazy as him. Picture this, diaper mountains everywhere, stinking up the joint like you wouldn't believe. And that's not even the worst part. Dude's into dip tobacco, right? So, you can imagine the horror when I saw wads of dip all over the carpet and even in his bed. Gross doesn't even begin to cover it. Needless to say, I've been keeping my distance lately. Can't be dealing with that kind of mess, both literally and figuratively. Story 5. I once had an Arab foreign exchange student friend. She once was complaining that her dad didn't send her tuition fee on time. She was already getting $10K month allowance from her dad, $2K for the apartment she was renting. Rest was for food and whatever else she was using it for. He was paying her tuition on top of that. This was around $420. Story 6. My sister-in-law and her husband lived at her dad's house. They were largely shut-ins and only left the room to eat and go to the bathroom. After a domestic violence incident, he was by police, side by cop, and she was hospitalized for 2 to 3 months. My wife and father-in-law went into her room for the first time in months, years, to clean it up and make it safe for her to move back when she was discharged. There was stuff on the floor up to your knees in places and mid-calf everywhere else. The room reeked of cigarettes, old food, and beau. There were tons of sex toys, clothes, half-used prescriptions, half-drunk sodas, etc. Everywhere. It was insane. Story 7. Went to a visit friend who just moved into a house with their partner, and how every room of their place is filled with trash, old pizza boxes and Amazon boxes. Now, I've never been one to keep my room or living spaces in order. Things get disorganized very easily, but at least try to contain it to my room where guests and my roommates don't normally venture into. But there, I was in shock. It looked like they had never once taken out the trash, but just compiled it all together and threw it in a different room. It was like if my freshman dorm had invaded and conquered a small house. I haven't said anything to them, and I haven't been back to their place since, even though they keep inviting me. I had a come-to-Jesus moment staying there and realized that I should get better at cleanliness. Story 8. Back when Foxtons let homeowners do for sale by owner with the Foxtons system doing advertising and setting up appointments, I looked at one old Victorian house in a nice suburb that was surprisingly inexpensive. Once inside, it was clear why. It had stacks of newspapers, magazines, etc. everywhere, leaving just a few paths through the house. Leaks were apparent, etc. The woman owner who was showing us the house apologized for the mess as they were preparing to move out. But it was obvious this was a hoarding problem and not moving piles. Then we got to a room that was locked and she told us it was her husband's lock and she didn't have the key, so we couldn't see the room. As she continued showing us around, she mentioned that she homeschooled her kids. That was the moment I realized the kids lived like this, and both parents were likely a bit mentally unstable. I still wonder if I should have called CPS to do a check. Story 9. Delivered pizzas in my very early 20s in rural New Hampshire and around the Massachusetts border in an area that tended to be economically depressed. I saw it all. Houses where I would gag the minute the door opened from the melange of cigarettes, cat piss, dirty dog, old grease, mold, and other less identifiable odors. Garbage everywhere, often bulging garbage bags sitting out in the open that were clearly not new, often with visible holes from rodents, seas of empties, with every surface covered in cigarette ash and unidentifiable stains and crusts. Yards with knee-high grass filled with trash, broken cars and appliances, dog sheesh, and sun-bleached toys. Floors that felt disturbingly spongy when I had to step inside, and walls that were sweating from the humidity. This isn't even half of it, by the way. Rural poverty and the diseases of despair that accompany it is a fast path to the nadirs of the human condition. Story 10. HS buddies got an apartment together. On the walk to the bedroom, one wall was piled tits high with fast food bags. The paper bags, when filled, became a sort of brick in this ever-growing monster. The bathroom filled with so many 3-in-1 bottles you couldn't see the floor. Closing the bathroom door pushed them into the house, so they often didn't. If I pissed in the middle of their living room, it would have been an improvement. Story 11. I once visited a dude I knew somewhat from middle school. I was with a friend who was friends with him. We were 1920ths. He had only recently moved in, but there was already a small mountain of smelly dishes and a smell of sweat because he was playing that VR rhythm game Beat Saber, which requires a lot of movement. When we were leaving, I had to take a quick leak in the toilet and just said, "I'll just borrow your toilet for a minute." His reaction was, as I was entering the toilet. What that had in store for me was to this day traumatic for me. Pee stains on the floor, pubic hair on the sink, and a smell of moldy clothes from the washing machine. He had lived there for less than a month. He has never worked a day in his life and was playing online slots. He often posted about winning something like 2,000. And less than a week later asking 20 for food in Snapchat My Story. A couple years passed and he sent me a message, just asking for 10 loan for a pack of cigarettes. He said he'd pay back in 5 days when he gets his social assistance payment. 5 days later I ask about the money. He reads the message but ignores me completely. Doesn't delete me or anything, just ignores. I tell about it to another friend who knows him and some other common friends of theirs, and he says that I'm not going to see that 10 ever again. He's apparently loaned from plenty of people and is in debt over 500 to one friend. I almost feel sorry for him, but a lot of those mistakes he made without the use of common sense. Story 12. Back in the day, before Geek Squad was even a twinkle in someone's eye, I was hustling part-time for this in-home computer repair gig. Let me tell you, it was a wild ride that lasted a good couple of years. But there's this one lady that stands out in my memory like a neon sign in a blackout. Picture this, an elderly, chain-smoking hoarder, crazy cat lady, and that's just scratching the surface. Her computer, oh boy, it was like diving headfirst into a dumpster fire. Dial-up days, mind you, so you can imagine the agony of waiting for anything to load. Now, the inside of her computer, that was a whole other level of chaos. It looked like the firebox of a steam locomotive, I kid you not. And her house? Forget about it. Packed to the rafters with magazines, boxes, and just random junk. You had to navigate this narrow path or straight up climb over stuff like a mountaineer. So, I pull out her computer to work on it, and guess what? Nowhere to work. Her place was a labyrinth of clutter, like some twisted maze from a horror flick. And the smell? Oh, don't even get me started. You could practically taste the stench of cat piss and cigarette smoke in the air. Speaking of cats, she had a legion of them. Strays, ferals, you name it, they were everywhere, leaving their mark on everything with their piss and poop. I swear, her house was a breeding ground for mutant ninja rodents with all the mouse holes I saw. Every time I left her place, I'd book it home and hit the shower like it was the last train out of Crazy Town. How that house didn't go up in flames, I'll never know. But one thing's for sure, I've seen some stuff in my time. And that lady's house? That's a story I'll be telling for years to come. Story 13. So, let me paint you a picture of my buddy's place. Brace yourself, because it's like stepping into the seventh circle of messiness. I'm talking plates with half-eaten meals stacked to the ceiling. And when I say plates, I mean a whole army of them. Dude even shoved one in a drawer once, just to free up some space. Like, what even goes through his mind? Now let's talk bathroom. Broken toilet seat patched up with duct tape, no hand soap in sight, and towels scattered like confetti. You couldn't pay me to sit on that throne. And the kitchen, don't even get me started. It's like a battleground of dirty dishes, and he only bothers to wash them when he absolutely has to. And even then, it's like he's using a dirty sock as a sponge. His glasses? Let's just say I wouldn't drink out of them if you paid me. Oh, and the stovetop? Always looking like it's been through a food fight, and the fridge? Don't even ask. Once found some mystery sauce splat in front of it, and you know what? Weeks later, still there, like a permanent art installation. I love the dude, don't get me wrong. We're tight. But after years of lockdown, I swung by his place, hoping maybe he'd leveled up in the cleanliness department. Nope, still the same old chaos. I mean, come on, man, it's not that hard to clean up, is it? It's like he's living in a perpetual state of mess. Guess I'll stick to inviting him over to my place. At least there, I won't feel like I need a hazmat suit just to hang out. Story 14. I'm an HVAC service technician, so I'm in people's houses all the time, every day. All walks of life, from extremely rich on down. I've seen the hoarders and the slobs, but the worst was a house that looked like 6 cats got together to buy a home. Then decided to let an old man live with them if he stayed in the corner and put food out. Absolutely disgusting, with cat litter and sheesh dusted literally through the entire house. I almost left and would have if it wasn't just a case of his coil freezing because the filter was clogged with fur. Felt bad for him. Obviously a mental health issue. Story 15. Let me dish out the scoop on my sister's crib. Love her to bits. But stepping into her place is like entering a whole different world. And not in a good way, mind you. The scent, dirty dogs mixed with the aroma of rotting food, and don't even get me started on the deck. Apparently it's the designated spot for the pooches to do their business, and nobody bothers to clean it up. Talk about a stink fest. Then there's the unfinished projects. They're like ghosts haunting the place. Reminders of grand plans that never saw the light of day. It's like walking through a graveyard of do-it-yourself dreams. Now, I'm no neat freak myself, but when we swing by with my brood, it's like stepping into an allergy war zone. Within half an hour, my nephews are sneezing up a storm, thanks to the dust bunnies and who knows what else lurking around. I love my sis, I really do. But man, I wish she'd channel some of that love into giving her home a little TLC. A clean space makes for happy faces after all. All right, folks, that's a wrap. If you like more of this, please hit a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. You can also share your thoughts in the comment below. I'll see you in the next video.